Good evening, everybody. Let's begin this meeting for the Natural Resource Board, regular meeting for Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. If we could have a call to order, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Dr. Carrier?
Present.
Ms. Billman?
Present.
Mr. Carano?
Present.
Mr. Stadelman?
Present.
Ms. Ware?
Present.
Dr. Mosblick?
Present.
Ms. Haggerty? Ms. Haggerty?
Okay. Thank you to everybody here and for being online. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes from December 12th, 2023?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 12th, 2023.
Thank you, Tom. Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Ware. Is there any discussion on that? A say of aye to approve the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
A say of nay to disapprove? The ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Moving on to number 5, announcements. I think Ms. Gordian has an announcement.
Hello, board. Unfortunately, earlier today, I received a message from Ruth Callahan. She is effectively resigning from the board due to personal reasons. So, wanted to bring this to your attention. And as you know, Dr. Carrier will also be leaving us after this meeting, and want to thank both you and Ruth Callahan for your years of service on the board, and you will be dearly missed.
I'd like to remind Dr. Carrier and Ms. Haggerty, you're not allowed to quit the board. You're on for life.
Sorry, did you mean Miss Callahan?
What's that?
Did you say Haggerty or Callahan?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was mistaken about Ms. Callahan is resigning. Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's hard work that has been here, and you know, the goodbyes are still coming, and you're always welcome back, Dr. Carrier. Greatly appreciate everything that you've done.
Thank you, as long as it comes with a caveat that I don't have to do the gopher tortoises again.
Gopher tortoises are for new people. Are there any additional announcements? Okay, not seeing any. Is there any agenda modifications that need to be done? Okay, not seeing any there. Is there any public input? Is there anybody on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Good to see you here, sir. Okay, and let's look at unfinished business. Item A for unfinished business is the Tulip Pond Project Florida Arbor Day Planting Event, Friday, January 19th, 2024. Ms. Gordian?
All right, so for the planting event on Friday the 19th, our start time is going to be 12 p.m. I would ask that members of the board, if you could kindly come out around between 11 and 11:30 to help with setup, it would be greatly appreciated. If not, no worries. I will be developing a sign-up sheet for all of our volunteers, and if you are planning to attend, please fill out the sign-up sheet for me so I know that you will, to confirm that you will be there. And we really look forward to the event. If there are any questions for me, please let me know. I will be updating the website, and the flyers and the event information will go out on social media, and I will send that to all of you as well. And if you wouldn't mind helping to distribute that, if you know anybody who would be interested in the event, please feel free to invite them.
I have a question.
Of course.
Could you tell me how long do you think this is going to take? How long do you think the event's going to be?
I'm thinking no more than 2 hours. It may not even take that much.
So over by 2?
Yes.
Thank you.
And for everybody, the Tulip Pond project is a demonstration project for water drainage for the area. It's also a commercial tax credit project. If you can plant this way in your area, you can possibly qualify for a tax credit. And it's going to brighten up the whole area. So it's just been a fantastic project, and I'm glad to see we're getting towards the end of that one. Is there any other discussion on the Tulip Pond project? Okay, not seeing none. We'll move on to item B, the Sustainable Sebastian Implementation Plan Update. Okay, and we'll just keep on going through. Did I miss something?
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
Good evening, Board. So attached in your packets, you have this, the final rollout plan for, I guess it was a 5-year home stretch plan, and it's due September 30th of 2024. What you'll see is that a lot of the projected due dates are in there, completion dates, as well as some of the note section is filled out. The idea being that we can wrap up the goals and objectives from the 5-year plan by September 30th, with Felicia being our cheerleader and helping us get through this. She will be, if there's a task in here that has been assigned to you or under your area of specialty, she will reach out to you about 6 weeks in advance and say, just checking in, seeing where we're at, the good, the bad, the reality, and helping navigate that. And so if you see something that your name's assigned to and you feel like that is obtainable or not, clear communication with Felicia is going to be of great benefit. So with that wrap up, if you have any questions about anything on the plan, please email Felicia directly, and feel free to copy myself, and we will get through this wrap up together. So that does not necessarily mean that Sustainable Sebastian is done for. It just means that we're looking at a new approach, and we need to be accountable for the 5-year implementation plan. So the future is very bright for the things that we can accomplish, but we also need to be accountable for getting this report completed. So look forward to hearing about the progress that you guys have made tonight in your respective areas. And I know Charles, Felicia, and I talked today about thing that he's going to present to us in the February meeting for the single-use plastics. And so just really looking forward to working with the board to get everything squared away and move on to the future. So that was all I had for the implementation plan update.
Excellent. Okay, that was number 1. Is there any questions on that from anybody? Then we'll move on to number 2. Reduction of single-use plastics, and the speaker on that. What I found out so far is, not going too much into depth because I got a really good thing coming in on our next meeting. The restaurants, food establishments, things like that, they have licensing. That's the number 1 thing. And it's licensing through the Department of Agriculture as well as DBPR and Health Department. One of the problems I'm running into is that when I develop these packs to hand to restaurants where they could give it to the patrons, I'm running up against sanitary requirements as well as food handling requirements. So they have classes that they have to take, and there's certain guidelines within both of these that they have to follow. The other thing that I was running up against, because it seems to be real easy just to develop a little toolkit of some silverware, a napkin, a reusable cup. But one of the problems that they have to do is that all that has to have a chain of control of where it came from, how it was introduced into the eating establishment, and how it was given to the patron. And there's a lot that goes along with that. So I don't know if we're going to be able to develop like a kit that includes utensils. That's where the other part was coming from. So I was looking at the single-use plastics and then looking at the actual, what we're doing, we're looking at the reduction of the single-use plastics by the city as well as businesses. So, and it's just not single-use plastics, it would be single-use materials would also fall underneath that category. And when you start expanding that scope of work, it turns out there's a lot more that we can do than just utensils, cups, and plates. When it comes to businesses and such, most of them are restaurants we're talking about. They also use gas, or they use cleaning materials, or they use different products that have a life cycle of some sort. The same thing with the city. The city maintenance department has greases and chemicals that are in storage bins or bought in a certain manner that could possibly be bought in a more sustainable manner. Machinery that can be either repaired, reused, sold off to pay for new machinery, or recycled in general. So I can open up the scope a little bit more than just including just the restaurants and such. And it already says the whole city. So I'm just stepping up a little bit from just single-use plastics to single-use materials, because it also applies in restaurants and small businesses as well.
I would love to expand on that conversation when we meet next Friday.
Yeah.
And talk about what that looks like. And so we can still stay focused on the single-use plastics that we have addressed in the plan, but then look on what the expansion might look like in different areas and what might be a realistic goal. And so I think that we should definitely make a note to have that be part of our conversation when we meet next Friday.
And then the only other thing I have to say on the single-use plastics, which sticking strictly to businesses, is most of them purchase their food and food supply from wholesalers. And in fact, they almost pretty much have to. I can't find it in writing where they have to, but I know that a restaurant can't run out to Walmart and buy what they need. So a lot of what we do has to go to be towards the distributors, and both of the main distributors, both CBI, Cheney Brothers, and Cisco, they pretty much dominate the market. And if they're not, they're a subsidiary of them. They both have sustainable, eco-friendly packaging and all these things that they can already buy with the cost associated with it. So we've gone through all the costs, and it is substantial. And when we go through it next month, we can do comparison. I don't know how much that's actually going to help us with what we're wanting to do. And then the last thing would be to do is everything that we do with reduction of single-use plastics has to be geared toward adding value to what the businesses are doing already. So we can't just say, oh, you can't use this and you can't use that. We have to develop systems that's going to add value to that lunch price, or we have to develop a system that they can do value added to whatever they're doing. Because just to present something to them doesn't mean they're going to do it, and it's not a way for them to make money with it, and the show of value to the consumer that makes it worth them, one, to come to the establishment, first of all, to maybe spend a little bit more for those sustainable products. So going forward, we have to look out for all of those, and they're already spending the money, so it's just a redirection of money. So, and I got most of the report in that. That was my first PowerPoint, by the way. How did it look? It was very interesting. My first one. So I've been wanting to do one. Everyone knows here I've been wanting to put one on the big screen. And that's really all I have. Between the licensing and what they have to look out for, the wholesalers, and developing value is going to be the biggest thing. So the other big thing that I found with, and this will be my last comment, the other big thing I found with single-use materials or plastic is the value of them. That's why they're not kept. Because we just absolutely have no value of a plastic fork or an old tractor. We can go a little bit further. An old tractor that's sitting out here in our maintenance department. We have to figure out some way of making it a valuable proposition for everybody involved. I don't know how to do that quite yet. There's some different things that I'm looking at. I'll have it I'll be able to present it in February's meeting. But that's really what it boils down to. The reason why it's ending up in the landfills is because we don't attach any value to it. You notice nobody's throwing away gold earrings or gold rings or anything like that. So if we're going to work at, attaching value to it. Other places do it by attaching where you spend 10 cents for the, I don't know what they call it, the fee to buy the bottle deposit. They have a deposit. So other places, that's a value-added proposition. But I don't, maybe we can do something else, but it'll be things like that. That's why all these plastics and everything else ends up in our landfill, though, because we just don't attach any value to it, where there really is. But we'll get into that next time around. That's all I have. Is there any comments or anything?
I do have some comments, Charles, but I also believe Sherida has some comments.
Ms. Billman?
You
Do
can
you
go
want
ahead.
me to go first?
You go ahead.
Basically, I just want to kind of, after our last meeting, we had talked about reaching out to other municipalities about their programs that they've done. And so I did talk to the city of Stewart, and I was blown away with what they've accomplished. So I spoke to, what's her name, Ann Hawkins, and she's the program manager for utilities and engineering in Stewart. And she spent a good half hour with me, but just going over the basics. But they probably have like a 50-page program of their sustainable Stewart. I mean, they have everything from like overhead solar collectors and parking structures and so forth. It's really impressive. But my main takeaway from my conversation with her, it actually makes it really simple for me, is dealing with the single-use plastics and city-operated functions and how they do it there. So shall I go ahead and elaborate on this? Okay. So the first thing that she said is basically we were talking about where to purchase things. And she says for the city of Stewart, they buy them at Walmart or Sam's or Amazon in bulk. She says it's about the same price everywhere else. So you don't have to, anyway. So that's where they get most of their primary, like their paper good products and so forth. She also said that city employees bring their own containers and utensils. And they do have compostable palm utensils, but it's discouraged to use them. They want people to bring their own utensils to work and use them at work. The only exception for using single-use plastics would be, for example, if they had a birthday party and a birthday cake, they're going to use the plastic forks. So there are exceptions, she said. And then we moved on. So that was like the city properties. Now it's just, this is it. And it was agreed upon, and that's what they're doing. The next thing that she talked about was like city functions, like in the parks and so forth, where we have food vendors and so forth there. They actually made it part of the events where they have, where was it here? What is it? When you submit an application for an event where you're going to be a food provider, you would have to agree to using no single-use plastics, single-use utensils, styrofoam, and things like that. She said the exception would be if they have like an inventory of, say, styrofoam clamshells, or they have like plastic cups as opposed to paper cups, they let them use that inventory up before they need to replace it with what they agreed to when they signed the agreement to participate in a city event. And she says most people are on board with it, so that didn't seem to be a problem for them. She said they also, we talked about trash and recycling and so forth. The good thing is that Stewart has their own trash company. So whenever they have a city event, they actually set out a recycling container right next to a trash container. And they have, like, I think they said 12 of them that they kind of place around the event. So it encourages people, especially by the food vendors and so forth, you put your plastic, your recyclables here and your trash in here, and then they pick it up and they deliver them as the event ends or begins. another thing that they've talked about too is signage. They had like they call them the pole flags, where they are present at the events, saying, you know, encouraging people to recycle, to, you know, to bring their own straws or to bring their reusable cups and so forth to an event, just to encourage people that, yeah, it makes a difference. And that was, I thought was really kind of neat how they factored all that into an application for a city event. And once they're on board, she says it's not been a problem. So I thought that was really, really cool. And then the other thing that she said is that they are not allowed to enforce with private restaurants and businesses what they use. You can encourage them, again, with the city. This is what we're hoping to accomplish and encourage them to do things. So one thing that they thought was really, really nice is, let me see here. They encourage the restaurants to use appropriate product signage, encouraging people not to use styrofoam and not to use straws or things like that. They actually had, where was it here? They actually printed up, the city printed up, skip the straw coasters. So whenever they would go to a restaurant, whenever they put down your coaster on the table, it says skip the straw. If you request a straw, they have paper straws. They don't have plastic straws. So that was kind of interesting. And also it encouraged people to bring their own drink containers to restaurants and so forth like that. But she was more than happy to field questions or help. I think it would be worthwhile to actually go talk to them because they've got it done. They started this in 2019. It's going on now, and it's working out really well. And the other thing that she mentioned as far as the restaurants, I think we had brought up Surfrider. Okay. Surfrider, and I didn't print it all up. I just put, with the restaurants, there's actually 5 mandatory criteria for a restaurant to become Surfrider qualified or recognized. And this is the 7th. It's really easy. Only reusable foodware on on-site dining. In other words, no plasticware. They have to be able to wash it. Okay, you can't just put it on a paper plate or whatever. Okay. Oh, well, actually, I guess you could put paper. Anyway. Paper straws on request only. No styrofoam, not even in there. This is all Surfrider. No plastic takeout bags for to-go orders. If you have a to-go order, then you're allowed to give them a straw, but they have to request it. Any condiments, straws, napkins, things like that, they need to ask them if they want it. Then they can give it to them. Beverages are not sold in plastic bottles at all. It's only aluminum or bring your own container. And then they also at the restaurants will practice proper recycling practices. And that was it for Surfrider certification. There's a whole thing on Surfrider that goes a lot more into detail, but that's just the bullets to get it. And I think most people could do that. I really do. And all it is a little, I think, a decal in your window, Surfrider. And but I think it's really a step in the right direction. So, but other than that, I was really impressed. I mean, for them to have done this through the pandemic and everything. I mean, I just concentrated on the recyclables and so forth. I didn't even go into the other stuff, but they have a very, very broad program, much more involved than what we're trying to do. So, having said that, I was impressed. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you for that research, and look forward to getting their packet, see how it overlaps. You know, I mean, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel in this, and there's only so much we can do. A couple of little laws that have popped up. You're not allowed to outlaw plastic and styrofoam, so we can't tell them they can't have styrofoam. So that's going to be a tough one for us. The Surfrider is integrated into what we're doing already, but we're just going to have to pick and choose what we can and can't recommend as a board to the city council. And one of the things is we can't ban anything. But I got something coming up next February that's going to help with that. Is there any comments on what Ms. Billman had researched for us?
I just have a question as far as the materials. Are they sending them to you, or that you downloaded them from?
It's on their web.
It's on their web.
I can forward, I forward it to Felicia, and you can just, because it's like 50 pages, and I wasn't going to print that up. Yeah, so I would suggest maybe forwarding that link to them, because I also had the Surfrider link on it as well, so they can kind of read through it, because it's very inclusive.
Excellent. Fantastic. Is there any additional questions? Thank you, Ms. Billman. Greatly appreciate that. And not seeing anything else on reduction of single-use plastics, we'll move on
Charles?
to, yes.
Just to recap what we've talked about, so we've touched on Sustainable Steward and the work that they've done so far. You've got a presentation coming up in February that we will touch base on. And I think that was everything that we covered for sustainable single-use plastic, so just figured.
Excellent. Fantastic. Let's get rid of these single-use plastics, or at least find a use for them. Something. Okay, any other questions on single-use plastics? Not seeing any. We'll move on to item 3, native landscaping, and back to Ms. Billman.
Unfortunately, I don't have anything to report.
That's okay.
We're still kind of like in that loop of talking to and getting the lists and so forth, which hasn't really come about yet. So.
As long as we keep moving forward, little steps are better than no steps. So there's a lot going on here. We just got through the holidays, and one step forward is one step forward. Okay, is there any questions on native landscaping from anybody? Okay, not seeing none. We'll move on to tree protection and landscape ordinances. Mr. Carano.
Yeah, I have nothing new to report,
Okay.
although I have to thank Dr. Cox for sending me these numerous pages that I guess they had done previously. I haven't had a chance to go through them all, but you can see, and these are double-sided, that I have a lot of reading to do. So, once again, thanks to Dr. Cox. I will read every bit of that, what he sent, and we'll try to incorporate it in what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Carano. Is there any questions from anybody for that? I think we have our tree planting coming up January 19th. That's the only thing I have on native landscaping or anything like that. Okay, moving on to item 5, resource conservation. Ms. Ware, do you have anything for us today?
I sent a sheet to Felicia earlier today. Excuse my voice, but I'm being sick over the holidays, and this is all that's left. So it's just basically meant for the office workers mainly in the city. If you look at the separate piece of paper, it looks
Oh,
like,
this one. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
And I think that once they get the questionnaire, do you have a date on that when you're giving them the questionnaire?
They actually have the questionnaire. It's been distributed to city staff, and the due date is January 18th. I believe it was distributed on December 18th.
Good. I was hoping that that would have gone out, because this kind of just follows up and reinforces what kind of things we think that they should be able to do based on these examples here. I think that if we keep reinforcing this after now they've been aware of the questionnaire, they know it's due, they have to start considering how they're going to answer the questionnaire, and maybe there could be some kind of reward given to those. I don't know if you have any kind of office games here, like most buildings have competitions of some kind, that might be something that we could encourage with them, with the different offices, is just to keep it fun instead of as a job.
So to incentivize it a little bit.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We can definitely look at that, and then we will see about having the results of that survey also presented at the February meeting. So that is also the goal, is to have the results of that employee survey presented at the
So
February
do
meeting.
you think that something like this, you could give out to your workers here?
Well, we'll need to run it past everybody, but it does seem like a very reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems extremely reasonable what's
Yeah.
on here, yes.
I mean, I'm thinking that I would do the same kind of thing for businesses, you know, or also for home use. You know, some kind of simple, here's a few steps that you can make in your home, basically. You know, that kind of simple, keep it simple. That's all.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Is there any additional discussion, Ms. Ware? Does anybody have any questions on resource conservation? Thank you for your work on that, Ms. Ware. And I know it's been a challenging month for everybody, but thank you very much. And we'll move on to green infrastructure and low impact development with Dr. Moseblack. Nicole, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, cool. So I just wanted to thank everyone, especially with Sherida, all that work that was done to see what was going on with Stewart. It's kind of nice to be able to see the progress that another municipality has made. I don't know, I feel like seeing this mode of checking in with everyone on regular basis, I feel like it's working quite well. So, sorry, little tangent, but what I had to report for the past month, I was able to visit 3 additional parks. I had sent these reports to Felicia, and I just was going to kind of cover what I found. So the 3, and sorry, just to recap, with the green infrastructure, what my task was is really trying to visit parks that are in the city of Sebastian on a priority basis to try and see what is there in terms of protection as well as potential for future use. So the 3 that I went to, sorry, I'm going among my different documents here. I was at the George Street Park, the Filbert Street Park, and Bryant Court Park. And so what I noticed there with Filbert Street and George Street, they were kind of similar in the sense that, actually, no, hold on. I take that back. It was Bryant Court and George Street. We're both parks and that have playgrounds. They're primarily mowed. You have some sable palms, you've got some sand pines, some oaks, and some, it looks like some crepe myrtle as well. Not all of the trees look like they're in great condition, so I kind of noted that and tried to pass that along. But one of the things that we had discussed at our last meeting was the lack of kind of understory species. So I think that that's one of the things that we have potential for. It's really just mowed grass or trees. Really don't see much in terms of wildlife diversity. There were a couple insects at the George Street Park that my son was chasing down a butterfly to try and find, but we couldn't get a good picture. But one of the things I noticed at both of at the George Street Park was we had wood chips, so a natural substance around the playground. Bryant Court had the, sorry, they're all starting to, Bryant Court had the like rubbery type surface underneath it. So I wasn't sure if moving to a more natural material might be something we could look into. Trying to think what else. I think with George Street Park, the understory and lack of diversity for animal species was kind of one of the things that stuck out. With Bryant Court Park, there is a lovely kind of natural area where you've got sand pines and sable palms. Again, a lot of it underneath is cleared, so there's not much understory, but that seems like a huge area where we could start to allow some more natural native species to come in an area that's already not being mowed, if that's making sense. I hope this is all making sense to you all, because I can't see anyone's faces. All right, and then finally, Filbert Street Park. I wanted to end with this one. This one also has a park and a playground. The playground and swing seem to be really new. It's got a wood chip base to it. One of the things I noticed about all of the parking lots is they're all permeable parking lots, which I think is something to take note of, that we are kind of maximizing our recharge to the aquifer with these and not really paving over. But with Filbert Street Park, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this area, but there is a huge part of this property that actually has trails that go through a kind of wooded section. And to me, I always thought these were empty lots. So I used to take my kids to Filbert Street Park when they were much younger. However, these trails in there were quite well maintained. I feel like signage would be something that would be really easy to add to allow people to go through there. However, one of the things that I noticed is that the vast majority of the plant species that are back there in that kind of more overgrown section is, I'd say, 90% Brazilian pepper. Some of it, there's dead stands that you can see that it was kind of cleared or attempted to be killed off or killed back, and it just grew over top. So the Brazilian pepper is really super thick there, and I don't know if it would be feasible to take that much Brazilian pepper out. However, it's got a lot of potential to be able to, again, kind of similar to that Bryant Court area where you already have a section that's not being mowed by Parks and Rec staff or whoever it is, the maintenance staff. And if we could take out some of the non-natives and bring in some more natives would be wonderful, especially having trails there that people could use and really encouraging people to use it more often. I didn't see much in terms of, well, actually, I did see some air potato, very, very little. My son actually pointed it out to me. But what was interesting there is the air potato that was visible, it did appear to be eaten. I know from my work with the Audubon Society that there have been some of the air potato beetles released in our county to try and combat air potato infestations. And so I'm not sure if that's what's happening here, but there was definitely something that was consuming the air potato leaves. So I thought that was interesting as well. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, that was great. Wow, great work, considering you also hold a full-time job.
Yeah, I'm trying to balance everything. And
Right.
as I look through it, I'm about a third of the way through. So looking at the list of parks that I have yet to visit, I love that I have so many to visit in a small city. It's pretty impressive. But there's about 19 on here, so I'm about a third of the way through.
Excellent. Great work. Yes, thank you very much. Is there any questions for Dr. Mosblick on anything she discussed so far? Nicole, thank you for everything you've done so far for being a champion for the green infrastructure and low impact development for the city of Sebastian.
Sure. Can I ask one quick question?
Yes,
Sorry,
please.
For Felicia. Felicia, I was just wondering, next up on my list, I have Schumann and then Kildare Park and the Stormwater Park. In the list, it says that Kildare was visited in 2022 and then Stormwater was visited by county staff in 2023. Are those two parks ones that you would like me to revisit, or do you feel like my time would be better spent going beyond those and then I can go back to them?
Sorry. I think those are best revisited towards the end of the project. Can you remind me what was the one that was next on the project? You said Schumann Park, was that correct?
So Schumann Park is the one that's next. So I believe that's the one down at the bottom by Schumann and US 1, yes? With the fountain?
Yes. I think the one, you might be thinking of a historical park with the fountain closer to US 1. Schumann Park it has a playground and tennis courts.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay, so I'll visit that one. So you said then Kildare and Stormwater. We have some information, so I'll go back. So I'll skip those and go to Hardy and try for Blossom Street Park in the next couple weeks.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, All right, wonderful, thank you.
Great work. Any additional questions for Nicole and green infrastructure or low impact development? Okay, not hearing none. Thank you for that, Ms. Mosblick. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our last one, sidewalks and bikeways. But I think we're going to pass on that one. Okay, and we'll pick that up. Are we going to need a new champion for that, or is that something I can just do? Because I was the champion for it, and there's not a lot I was really able to do with sidewalks, but I'll continue.
We will talk about this among staff, and we'll possibly reach out to the board concerning the champion assignments before the next meeting.
Okay, that'll wrap up item B for Sustainable Sebastian Implementation Plan Update. Thank you to everyone for their hard and continued efforts. Ms. Billman, that's fantastic work getting the information from the Stewart people, and Dr. Mosblick, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item C, Earth Day and Arbor Day celebration is scheduled for Saturday, April 20th, 2024. Woohoo!
All right, so first up, I'd like to ask you all about your interest in having beer at the Earth Day celebration again. It seemed to go relatively well last year, and just to recap, we partnered with Rotary to have our logo on the cups that were used, and they helped provide the beer for the event, and it seemed to be a success. Now the question is, do we want to reach out to them again to do the same thing?
Well, let's ask the board. We can do a consensus right now. Start with Ms. Billman, beer or not?
I think that if it went well last year, I don't see why not continue it this year.
Mr. Cronin?
I agree.
Ms. Ware?
I think it's a good idea. The only question I have was, were they plastic cups? Or
They were compostable, actually.
Okay,
Yeah, they ended up being compostable or special way compostable.
So yes.
Dr. Carrier?
Same.
Same? Okay. And I would agree as well. The only thing I have to bring up is we got to bring it to the nonprofit that's going to do it, whether it's Rotary or not. I'll bring it up at our board meeting. But we're going through some changes too at Rotary, so I'm going to have to. I can't commit for them, but I will bring it to them right away. And you can also email Mark if you'd like to as well. And our breweries are Mash Monkey and Paradilia, and unless there's another brewery that's opened up in town.
And I believe last year we got the beer itself from J.J. Taylor, was that correct?
Yeah, that was one thing one of the reasons why I had brought up beer to start with, and again, I'm not really a drinker, and we do these beer fests, I don't even go to them. I brought it in mostly to show the process of making money with natural whatever you're basically making money out of the earth. You're growing hops, you're using water, you're putting heat to it. And that was what I was hoping that the local brewers would showcase more than just getting beer from the big distributor. But that's okay too. But I would like to tell more of the story of it and any sustainable things. So if we get the distributor again, I'd like them to participate with a booth on sustainability and such. I like to tell the story a little bit, put it that way. As much as I like to drink it, I guess, like to tell the story.
Can I just add on that, Charles?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think that's actually a really good point to give a little history of beer, because I'm not a beer drinker either, but I mean, it's fascinating what you can make out of a potato or whatever, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure,
So,
absolutely.
But that would be kind of the history of beer or whatever, and how now there's all the craft beers and it's very popular, so.
And it's really interesting how the story of beer is a traveling story. It moved around with the people that migrated. So it's really a really interesting story all in all. Okay, yes, we're going to do beer. Anything else, Ms. Gordian?
Right, yes, so Just to keep you updated, I will reach out to Waste Management to discuss the shredding and recycling event for the for Earth Day. Donna, will the art club participate again this year?
Oh, definitely. We're definitely, I know that you probably know, being as you're here in this building, but it's also the centennial. So I was just having a question as to whether or not the Natural Resource Board wanted to do something about its history here, you know, here as part of the city, as part of what we contribute to the city. And it seems that a lot of the groups that will be at all the events all during the year will be doing something historical in nature and linking their company, service, whatever they do, to the city and how long they've been doing it. For the art club, it's 87 years. So we are doing something special for the centennial, which we will have paintings of old buildings that will be moving around. But I think that the Natural Resources Board should also have some type of information about when was it first formed, you know, under, you know, whomever started the committee, the resource board, and maybe just a couple of items that have helped Sebastian along the way to become what we hope to be sustainable.
May I interject? Maybe
Yes,
just a timeline, you know, that this is when it started with the goals and the purpose of the board, and what the board has accomplished over the years that we've been together would be good.
Seems to be a big gap between 1903, when Pelican Island was done, and the Natural Resource Board was established in the 80s or something. But
And maybe even how many Earth Days we did, you know.
excellent ideas. These are great ideas. Anything additional, Ms. Gordian?
We'll be doing a poster contest too, again. I'll be running that as well. So the school really does enjoy doing, the charter school loves doing that, so.
Yeah, it was wonderful to see the turnout last year, how many students participated, and to see them all come here for the award ceremony was wonderful. So I look forward to seeing that again this year. I did want to bring up that I'd like you guys to start pondering what sort of questions we'd like to have on our scavenger hunt this year. Last year, it seemed like the scavenger hunt went really well, and thank you to Nikki for the development of those questions that we used in the scavenger hunt last year. So if there's anything in particular that you think that, you know, we should add to the scavenger hunt for this year, or maybe something, you know, style of the scavenger hunt that should be modified, please start considering that. Sharda?
I had a couple things I wanted to ask about. Jeff, you mentioned about with the gopher tortoise thing. Is there any way to kind of modify that to make it more
Better.
yeah, well, you know, to make it more enjoyable or a better experience for the kids?
One of the things we talked about was combining it with the consortium, Gopher Tortoise, I don't.
The Gopher Tortoise Alliance?
Yeah, the Gopher Tortoise Alliance.
Good idea.
So that we actually bring the two of them side by side. We did a poster, some information related to the biology of gopher tortoises and whatnot, and put that on display. But absent having someone really to chauffeur the youngins through there, it becomes a game of hide and seek. It appeals to the 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, with the exception of one of our city council members and former mayor, who seems to really love going through and has been a staunch supporter of that.
Yes.
We really need to have someone shepherd people through and really make it an educational experience, and it's not that right now.
Could that possibly be something like with the boys club or the girls club where they can be involved in it?
It could be anyone who's willing to get involved, and it could be Boy Scouts, it could be any youth group. We've had we had some young people monitor this for us last year and assist with it. But we moved this location last year, and that was not to our benefit because it was displaced behind everything and wasn't in the fore of people's scope of view. We put it back out in the middle and make it a little more dramatic and have someone willing to show kids through. I don't know how we appeal to an older target audience, not adults necessarily. It's not big enough to accommodate a wheelchair, but you know.
I would suggest maybe to have, if we could get somebody here if somebody could bring the gopher tortoise, and have some sort of display talking about the gopher tortoise and how important they are as a cornerstone species, and how I think it's really wonderful how people will stop to move the tortoises out of the street. In fact, I thought it'd be wonderful. I don't know if it's something we could do where we can maybe even sell, I don't know if we can do this, to sell like I stop for tortoises or I break for sandhills or things like that, to just let people know that aren't here year round, that the local people are really aware of the wildlife that's moving throughout our community. And so they get upset if somebody's pulled off and holding up traffic because there's a sandhill walking across the street or whatever. But I think it's important that maybe we have some kind of signage that Sebastian supports our wildlife, because it is very special.
We tried a couple of years ago to contact the Brevard Zoo to see if we could bring a gopher tortoise down here, and the notion of partnering with the Alliance, having them proximal to the gopher tortoise burrow setup, and having a tortoise there would make all the difference in the world. Then we'd start attracting an older group who have some interest in seeing live animals. On
that note, I know that there's that wildlife rescue up in Brevard, and maybe they would have some rehabilitation type animals that they could bring down to talk about, again, our native species that have been hurt in one way or another. It could be a sea turtle or, tortoise or, an owl, I don't know. But to have a little more wildlife here for people to see, I think that would really pique interest, especially in the children, which also brings me to the butterflies. And I was wondering if it would be possible where I could have my own little butterfly station. There was a lot of interest last year, and it just kept a lot of people they're in awe of it. They really are. In fact, I'm going to start my own little presentation. I'm going to do one at the library, and I also have another one where I actually come and do a talk on butterflies, not only natives, but just what's involved with them. How long do they live? The more common species around here, the host plants, the nectar plants, and that sort of thing, because they're all fascinated by them. So, but I would be more than happy to do that.
I don't see a problem with that, really.
Sherida, did you have something in mind as far as setup goes? What you were thinking, how would you like it to be different from last year?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I really don't know. It could be just, I may have more posters set up, like my own little canopy thing, where I have a table, and I should have chrysalis and caterpillars. I should have something or have access to them, but to talk a little bit about them.
The only potential drawback is that depending on how many board members show up, having you completely detached from what the board's doing puts a greater burden on the few people that already show up. So that should be a precaution that we need to factor into this as well.
Perhaps we need to consider the location of the NRB booth very carefully, and consider the positioning of the surrounding booths.
Sure.
In that case, because if, say, we want to give Sherida a special station, another table to the side of the NRB booth, then we just have to make sure the placement is appropriate.
Awesome. We can work around it. Yeah, and we got between now and March to figure that all out, too. Any additional questions on Earth Day, Arbor Day celebration, Ms. Gordian? Ms. Bernard?
I did want to touch base on the community volunteering activity. Dr. Carey and I have met with Donna Halloran of the Pelican Island Audubon Society about the potential of doing a air potato removal event. And we were initially considering it as an opportunity that we would take during Earth Day, and considering what she described as the ideal time of year for air potato removal, which is apparently not spring. It is more so towards the fall and winter season. And considering that Stormwater Park is so far away from Riverview Park, geographically, relatively it's not that far, but for the sake of the event, it's a bit too far. So we think it may not be possible for this time of Earth Day time of the year, but possibly later down the road, we may consider hosting an event of this nature. That being said, I'm not sure what your interest is as far as a community volunteering event, because we still want to engage, our event goers. But this was kind of, we were playing around with this idea as a possibility, and now where do we want to go from here, is my question.
Car wash. My car. And again, we can think about this till February,
Absolutely,
right? Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So the idea being is that we're presenting these ideas to you tonight. And so if you could think them over and email or reach out to Felicia with your ideas and suggestions, and we'll keep moving forward with what's going to be best for the event itself and having that community involvement. So appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent meeting we're having so far today.
I'm wondering, Charles, I'm sorry
Yes,
to
ma'am.
interrupt.
Go
Do you
ahead.
mind if I ask a quick question? So just thinking about what was just mentioned, as well as trying to get people involved, there are a lot of organizations locally that are both interested in getting volunteers from the community, as well as might have experts to offer kind of their own expertise. And I'm wondering if it's worth, sorry, the idea is just coming to mind, but so say for example, like we've got Coastal Connections, we've got Orca, we've got Pelican Audubon, we've got all these different places. Is it worth having almost like a scheduled talk where it's like a tour of, so these people would have their booths at the Earth Day Festival all day long, but they might have a certain hour or a half hour where they're scheduled, where people can go and they're going to hear on talk on, say, like the butterfly flowers, and then, maybe these organizations have them take something home with them. Or they sign up and they get involved or like Coastal Connections talks about sea turtles, and then they, these are individuals who might hear that talk and then want to sign up to volunteer with that organization for the long term. I know that when we do the oyster mats, it's a one and done. Or when we were doing the oyster mats, it was kind of, they get involved and then that was really it, right? And so this is something where we can we can try and facilitate that connection between people in the city of Sebastian and our existing, fantastic existing kind of countywide resources. Just a thought. I don't know how feasible, but.
No, it's a great thought. And if we work it out, it'll be very feasible. The more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. And I think a lot of these environmental company organizations want to participate, and if we give them an avenue, they may. So that's a great idea, Dr. Mossbeck. Greatly appreciate your input. Is there any additional discussion from anybody about the Earth Day Arbor Day celebration being held Saturday, April 20th, 2024? Seeing no additional discussion, we will move on.
Excuse me.
I'll go right ahead, Ms. Spillman.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of backtracking here. But when I talked to Stuart, they also said with the eco-friendly events, and I just saw this here and I thought, oh shoot, this is perfect. It would be like work with sponsors to promote eco-friendly awareness prior and during the event. So that would be using the sustainable things. Encourage guests to walk, bike, or carpool to the event. Substitute printed materials and go digital. We do that anyway. Utilize hand stamps instead of tickets or things like that. But I can give this to
Excellent.
you, just to, it's really kind of nice, but like I say, it's all part of that
Yeah, email it
50-page
to,
thing.
Ms. Gordian and Ms. Bernard, and
My
they'll get it
printer
right
kind
out to
of,
us.
my printer kind of died on me, it's awful, but.
Save the ink.
Exactly.
Any additional discussion on anything we've spoken about so far? All right, great work from everybody so far. Go ahead.
Sorry, Charles, I was just thinking, I'm not sure if Felicia was planning on going over this, but as we start to put the application out there for vendors and booths, are there any additional questions we want to ask? I know that Sherida mentioned this idea of putting in the application a question about, will you be using single-use plastic of this? And I know we can't eliminate that or we can't ban it. However, we can raise awareness and encourage vendors to go in that direction.
And give them options.
Right, exactly. So I'm wondering if that, I don't know, Felicia, I didn't mean to, step on anyone's toes, but if that was something we might be able to just take a look at before the application goes out.
So certainly we can ask questions of the vendors, such as, what sustainable practices they're using on the day of the event, or, in general, what they use, sorry, I didn't have a proper end to that sentence, but.
That's okay. That was perfect. Yeah, we can add it to the application, just ask some questions as we go, and we got this next month to get that out, so that's gonna have to be tidied up real quick.
I just had an idea about that too, is if, as you get these vendor questionnaires back, maybe that could be put into the scavenger thing. That, you have to find out what vendor does this sustainable thing. And that will bring the people to those businesses that have sustainable practices that they're willing to get applauded for or whatever. Maybe they get coins or something. I don't know.
We could do an award for the most sustainable vendor.
Well, I just think that that's a win-win for the vendors, and we are reinforcing their behaviors with that.
Excellent points. Fantastic.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
Okay, and again, we got this next month to really tidy up some of that. We got until March to finish everything, because obviously April comes quick. Any additional comments, points? All right, again, Saturday, April 20th, 2024, mark it on your calendar, Earth Day, Arbor Day celebration. Yay, with beer. And we'll move on to number 9, new business. Is there any new business that we need to discuss, other than Dr. Carrier leaving us? And Ruth Callahan, too. I was kind of shocked. I want to again express my deep gratitude to both of you for all that you've done, and thank you. Okay, items for next agenda and date. The next agenda is February 6th, 2024. It's going to come quick. Not as quick as this one, because obviously we had our late meeting in December, and then this one came a couple weeks later. We're going to put the PowerPoint that I discussed, I'll clean that up, and we'll talk during the week. Any other items for next agenda that anybody can think of right now? Dr. Mosbeck, do you have anything?
No, nothing, no, don't. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I can get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Thomas.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Ware. Can we get a vote to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Aye.